deck. Warple got a hand pass out. It comes to Moore. He snaps a goal. The Hawks have got the opening three of the game.
McDonald goes with a really high ball inside the forward 50. Who wants to mark that? Joel! Wow! Takes a huge ride over the top.
Newcomb got a hand pass away to Hardwick. Hands it off again. Now to McDonald who snaps the goal. And punches the air in joy. Dylan Moore looking for his second. Puts it through for Hawthorn. And they have come out after half-time and taken complete control.
The Hawks overcame their inaccuracy to clip the Eagles' wings, prevailing by 61 points in the West. They've won 5 in a row and things are going to script, but a huge test down the highway now awaits. The Hawk Talk podcast is back with a jam-packed show. Thanks for joining us. My name is Nick Mason, and we are oh so close now to leapfrogging a certain team on the ladder.
It's 2%. We are 2% off Melbourne. It's getting hard to keep the lid on, to be honest. It's like a pressure cooker. If we beat Geelong at Geelong, that's it. Lid's off. Lid's totally off. We would be one of the best form lines in the competition.
Well, it's neck and neck with Carlton. It's just those two teams are head and shoulders above in form lines. Well, I say head and shoulders. Sydney just dropped one, so now they're back in the pack. Don't worry about that. But yeah, it's Carlton and Hawthorn who are very shortly set to meet each other, which should be a cracking contest if this keeps up.
On Sunday, you're thinking, all right, we're still a young team coming off the bye. Are they going to be professional? Are they going to be ready? What do you think we're going to see here? This is a good test because West Coast were pretty confident. All the talk about West Coast was how good this team was. They were finally getting some players back. And then we were at them from the start and very inaccurate. And I'm thinking, oh, well, we're going to give them a crack at us. It's got to come at some point, just like 2015. But it didn't come. It didn't come.
Yeah, it just never eventuated. And I can understand from a West Coast perspective just how disappointing that is. Because you're right, that is their best team they've fielded in a long time. And you would say Hawthorn's only obstacle was Hawthorn. I mean, we just could not find the goals. It's not as if at any stage Hawthorn was seriously threatened.
No, and our ball-winning abilities, the number of disposals we had, the fact that we could always find a bloke in space, the pace at which we were hitting their defensive line with ball movement, it was all one-way traffic, and there's only one blight from the game is the injury to Sicily. And of course Deer as well, which we haven't heard much about. But we've heard that Sicily's going to be a test, which I'm shocked by.
He won't play. There's no way. I'm fully expecting that he will not line up. But you know what? I've got to admit that I'm not too concerned about it. I feel confident that Hawthorn, I mean, don't get me wrong, Sicily is excellent. He's one of our best players. But I feel confident that we can cover for him.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, put it this way.
We did it already?
Well, we did do it already. We did it against Port Adelaide, and we almost won that one. I mean, but for the last 5 seconds, we would have won the 4 points.
He was flying in that third quarter as well. Absolutely flying. 10 touches and one of our best for the day. And, the professionalism of the outfit to be so controlled and deliberate in their output throughout the game and totally destroy or shut down all the West Coast avenues to goal because they brought in some very tall forwards. That's what they were going for. And we just denied them opportunities through the midfield and in the back half.
Well, they didn't have a mark inside 50 until, when? Like late in the third quarter, early in the fourth? I don't know when it was, but it took them forever to do that.
A very, very good performance. And, on our mid-season review, I said, if you don't beat West Coast, we ain't beating Geelong. Well, I'm pretty confident coming into the weekend, Nick.
Yeah, so am I. We're both making the trip down the highway. And it's actually both our first time at GMHBA at Cardinia Park. So it should be an experience. One, I hope we can walk away with the win. But let's get centred and focused back on this West Coast game because there's a number of players that we need to shout out here. The first of which I'd like to highlight is Dylan Moore with 29 touches, 2 goals and 3 goal assists, if you don't mind. A team-high 12 marks. He's one of the shortest players on the field, and he's leading the team for marks. What's going on? 11 score involvements, equal with James Warple, by the way, who had a sensational game. 357 metres gained and 6 inside 50s. Dylan Moore is just an out-and-out star. Continues to press his case for PCM.
PCM, All-Australian, spending time in the midfield now. Yeah, it's just wonderful. His work rate brings everyone else's under scrutiny. And, you know, if you're a half-forward flanker at another club, clubs are going to you, why can't you do what Dylan Moore does, mate?
Exactly right. I mean, this is a sustained effort, the likes of which I'm not sure I've seen before. The fact that this guy was out the door, basically. He was almost off the list, AFL career, up in smoke, and that was a few years ago now. He's been able to sustain this. His ascendancy has been constant, essentially.
It was a slow build, but he just keeps building, is what you're talking about. And now he's taking on leadership roles and stuff like that within the team, and putting. He really is a benchmark player. He you know what you're going to get from him, and every now and again you'll get a lot more. But he shows the others what level they have to play at. And we've still got some young fellas in the side who need that kind of guidance, that your output has to be this, and there's certain stuff you can't negotiate on. And you're seeing it come through with guys like Newcombe and Ginnivan, who are starting to really hit their straps in the last couple of months.
Do you not mean Ginnivan?
I do not mean Ginnivan.
How does that happen? Sorry to interrupt, but how does that happen that Dwayne Russell, think of how much footy media he consumes, for him to say Jack Ginnivan is actually mind-boggling?
It's just disrespectful. Just plain disrespect.
Anyway, Guy Newcombe, he was voted the fan MVP, and why not? I mean, a game-high 33 touches, 15 contested possessions among those, a team-high 512 metres gained, 8 inside 50s and 9 score involvements. Pretty safe to say he's back to his best, and has been for a while, to be honest.
His start to the game was incredible. 11 touches in that first quarter, got the ball moving in our direction. They didn't really have an answer for him all game.
There were a couple of guys that kind of demonstrated that. Jai Newcombe was one of them. And then I thought Giath early on really set the tone.
Yeah.
He was a guy that really cracked in.
Wait until he's fit, is what I'm thinking. Do you know what I mean? Because he didn't really have much of a pre-season. He's still getting back to full fitness. But our whole midfield was just swashbuckling all day. You know, like, who's this Reid fella? I think that's the poorest game I've seen from him. Don't you?
Yeah, I went into this game really thinking, and I thought the same of you as well. I thought we were going to have this mindset of settling in on the couch and going, okay, what's Harley Reid going to do? Because I haven't watched that much West Coast this year, and I thought, okay, well, let's just see what this kid's all about. Not much on this occasion. He didn't do much. His highlight for me, the chief highlight, was being gang tackled by 3 Hawks.
I mean, he was inaccurate. He wasn't kicking well on the weekend, and but that second quarter, I mean, he looked like he was going to take on the game, and he gave him a bit of hope. But once we started scoring, it became a bit desperate from them, and unfortunately, we couldn't, find a route around McGovern a lot. There were a few naive long balls and stuff like that, but
it all evens out because they couldn't find a way around Sicily, so I'm not that concerned.
Go on about Ginnivan. Let's hear all about his.
Well, when Ginnivan was recruited to the club, I guess I was seeing him as, here's this excitement machine, this goal sneak, and he's going to be capable of anything, but he'll just sort of bob up here and there. I'm not expecting some in-game consistency. I did not expect these sorts of numbers, which he's been producing for a while now, mind you. 21 touches, 2 goals, 4 marks, 4 tackles, 6 score involvements, 16 pressure acts, 344 metres gained, 3 clearances, 3 inside 50s. This is a man who's much more than the goal sneak I anticipated. This is a genuine all-round contributor.
Yeah, he's also applying pressure too. Like, he's very smart with ball in hand, and he finds space. He's a very clever footballer. He's still leaving a few goals out there. I think he could be far more accurate than he is, but there's a few forwards like that from the weekend. But he's just tracking beautifully for still a young man, even though a premiership player. But I've got to say, the next bloke, Lloyd Meek, I loved this game from him. Absolutely loved it. 37 hit-outs, 16 disposals at, 81 DE, 5 marks, but the 6 tackles.
The team high 6 tackles.
And 9 scoring involvements with those to go with a goal and 14 pressure acts, and he's just using his bulk to intimidate the opposition.
He is scary looking at times. I mean, because in our social media stuff for the show, I go through Getty Images and look at the photos taken from the game. And there was one in particular of Meek where I was like, Jesus, he's intimidating. This physique, this monster of a man, this mountain. And just to see him be able to utilise that. And look, you know, they had their injury concerns, West Coast, but the fact of the matter was that Meek was the dominant ruck before that happened. So, you know, he had a great game.
Yeah, 14 hit-outs to advantage, which is fabulous.
Indeed. Another guy I want to highlight here, Connor McDonald, 21 disposals. I didn't realise he had that much of the footy. He used it pretty well too. 81% disposal efficiency, 4 inside 50s, 2 goals, and 10 score involvements.
Yeah, 10. Just incredible. Didn't really expect that from Connor McDonald. You know, this season, he's remarkably consistent. And someone mentioned to me after that victory that we would be third but for those 2 losses by less than a goal. And I'm thinking, you know, it's just an incredible run we're on.
We flipped the script perfectly, mate. I mean, it was 0-5, and now it's 5-0, this streak. So we made amends. We avenged the start to the season perfectly.
And it was lovely to see Harry Morrison start the game and get 16 disposals, 9 marks, 3 score involvements, and 246 metres gained across the 4 quarters. Is that right, Nick?
Well, okay, where are you coming from with this one?
Is that why you got written up in the review here?
Well, I just thought it was a fairly admirable showing as a sub. To get 16 touches as a sub is pretty good.
That's my point. Yeah, he was the sub. Because I looked at that and I'm like, well, it's nothing really that notable.
Fair to say that Cal Shadir is probably coming off the ground, even without the injury concern. I mean, he had 1 touch. Mind you, 100% disposal efficiency.
Look, Cal Shadir does that some weeks. You know, he comes into it in the second half, or he fades out coming into the third quarter, that kind of stuff. But look, for Harry Morrison to just come on, and he basically did what he liked. He just it was like a plug and play. He just went straight to the structure and did exactly what he liked and helped the ball movement. And I enjoyed his contribution. And he's been sitting in the 2s for a while. And as we spoke about, he'd be wondering where to from here. But you can't look past him when he does that kind of stuff.
He's very merrily mopping up the Eagles' mistakes. He looks like he fitted in perfectly. I want to say, I made a bit of a joke about Cal Shadir's disposal efficiency. Half the team ran at over 80% disposal efficiency. Half the team. Well,
that's because there was so much pressure on them from the Eagles, mate. But I am starting to enjoy how they have confidence in their kicking ability. And they'll just hold the ball until there's an opportunity. And I think we remember the last time we were playing like that. We just patient, wait for the opportunity, and then slot the pass. There you go.
I have a feeling I'll miss that this week, with James Sicily being the chief expert at that kind of ball use. I mean, that kick into the centre, you know the one I'm talking about. That's just incredible. And then Impey tucks it under the arm. Oh, sensational play.
So I was listening to the radio. I was driving at that point. And obviously I've got the WA commentary. And they are just scathing that he can launch a 60-metre pass across the middle of the field. And no pressure on the ball carrier from there. And just, unfortunately, Xavier Ellis was absent. He must have been ill or something. But they kept talking about it. Like every 10 minutes, Xavier would love this. He'd have something to say about this. He had more to say in his absence than I think he does when he's actually in the box. But
well, there's 2 things I want to say about that. Is that, you know, to cut the Eagles a break, it's not like Sicily is never doing that any other game. He's very good at it, is James Sicily. He takes some good options and he has the skills to back it up. The other thing is, as far as the commentary is concerned, did you happen to catch any of the Fox Footy commentary? Because that was pretty biased as well. I
watched the first half on Fox Footy, and it was just there. It's just background. What did you tweet out? The other game had Matt Hill and Hutto.
I think so, yeah. That was Port Adelaide St Kilda. And I just tweeted a gif of David Tennant standing in the rain.
Well, that was a beautiful game, that one. That was a thriller.
Oh, yeah, it always is under Ross. And it gets results, mate, doesn't it? That's the beauty of that game plan.
This is a stunning stat. Leading our pressure acts, Cam Mackenzie.
Wouldn't have picked it. That's very inspiring for the confidence. I mean, to see that he can do that, lead the way for the team in pressure acts, that's something special.
He didn't have a lot of the ball. In fact, it's probably his poorest game for the year, but he must have been focused on pressure, do you think? Do you think that was what was said to him?
Oh, look, possibly. But, what matters is that even if you're not getting the accumulation that you aspire to, if you're still a contributor in some other way, that you're not just holding a spot down and running around aimlessly, but you're doing something. I think that is the point.
I tell you what, must have been a lot of pressure acts because he only had 2 tackles, Chief. It's just
Well, he had 19 pressure acts at the end, so maybe so they didn't always come off. At least he's having a dip,
It looks like an anomaly in the stats, just quietly. But anyway, our expected score this weekend was 118, and we scored 94. Now, I thought it would be like 140 by the chances that we were missing, But West Coast were even worse. They ran an accuracy of 29%. Our accuracy was 44%. But we just had so many shots. Goodness gracious.
And Jack Gunston was the one to supply them. I mean, he kicked 1 goal, 1 himself, but he had 4 goal assists.
Yeah, wow. It's big, isn't it? Because I looked at Gunston and I thought, oh, gosh, you're struggling, mate. The ball kept bouncing the wrong way and he just looked like he was having a tough day out there.
But there is that point once again, like I say with Cam Mackenzie, as long as you're contributing. A lot wasn't going Gunston's way. He didn't find too much of the footy, but he was setting people up when he had it.
Now, you're going to give me a nod when we're allowed to put some money on Watson to kick more than 5, aren't you?
Yeah.
He's having that many shots. It's just they're not going through.
Yeah, well, at least he dobbed 1. That was the one that I really needed him to kick. I thought, if he doesn't kick this, then we're in serious strife here. Not the club, but in terms of, oh, God, what can we expect now from Watson going forward? Because he's clearly been working on it, and to not kick that one would have been a serious issue.
Well, they're getting in his ear, the opposition now. But one of these weeks, everything's going to align. And if I've got $5 on him, I reckon I could pay for finals tickets just quietly. They're giving some pretty good odds for 5 goals.
Well, Neil asked us a question about our accuracy, but he also had another question in that same tweet. Is umpiring at its lowest level for years? We're commonly seeing cascades of bad decisions and numerous games clearly decided on whim. Has it always been this bad? Well, according to Andrew Dillon, it has, because it's never been better than this.
It's never been better than this. They've never been better than this. Is that what we're hearing?
They've never been better than this. That's what he said. It's of such an impeccable stand. Actually, no, those weren't his words. He's not saying it's of a good standard. He's just saying that it's never been better.
Hasn't really impacted me in my enjoyment of the game. I think we've had quite good umpiring for the last couple of months.
It's funny that when we're winning, but
yeah, that's true. But even the close loss, they didn't turn the clock off. But, mate, in the past, we've had Razor hearing sirens that didn't even go off.
You've had umpires marking footies.
Yeah, well, that's a long way back. Peter Carey over in Perth, and we haven't had the sprinkler system go off for a while.
There was Siren Gate down in Tassie as well.
We really need something to hang our hat on, It's just all these tiny blues that decide games, It's just...
It's surely a symptom of the round-the-clock media cycle, the fact that everything is scrutinised within an inch of its life. Then sweeping changes are being made, and then there's more pressure on everyone. And
nah, I'm not giving them that out. There's more umpires out there than ever. There was one umpire out there in the 80s. They don't even have to make score decisions anymore. They just chuck it to the guys in the bunker
who can still get it wrong.
Yeah, but then they get those guys. They get the goal umpires that are afraid to make a decision because it's going to be scrutinised anyway. I mean, it's just yeah.
Scott asks, is Hawthorn the most relevant football club in Australia right now, both in terms of game style and young list profile? Is Scott having a dig at the outcry from the media? I think it was maybe like a year or two ago, decrying Hawthorn as irrelevant. Is that what this is harking back to? Game style is super attractive. I love watching us play, more than I have in many, many years. our young list profile, I mean, the ceiling of this group is enormous. The fact that they inspire so much confidence.
It's consistency of effort. There's, it's very hard to pick who are the worst out there. Whereas you watch some teams that have obviously elite talents on each line, and then it fades off pretty quickly. And that means that you can take out that elite talent, or you can stifle that elite talent, and it really buggers up with their game style, unless they've got other guys in the wings that are just as good. Now this week, we see Deer come out, and we'll probably see Lewis elevated, right? Now you'd say that was an upgrade, wouldn't you, Nick?
Not necessarily. And this is the place that we're in at the moment. See, Hawthorn, well, any team, you start to consider, okay, who in this side is like in the bottom six? Who's more likely out of anyone to be on the fringes and lose their spot in the team? And I guess with Hawthorn, and I was discussing this with you at a different point in this podcast, but I could pick that bottom six for Hawthorn, but that is not the same as saying that I want them out of the side. Does that make sense?
It's the play your role thing, isn't it? Everyone knows what they have to do. Some of them don't try to overdo it. They just stick within the boundary. And I think Frost is a good example of that. He doesn't feel compelled to try and change the situation any longer.
That is an excellent reading on things.
He's got confidence in those around him. It was great to see Impey. Every now and again, one of them will hit the jets and run off the half-back line and look absolutely terrific. It's wonderful to see because they're all just emerging.
To your point before, Cal Shadir being the one to come out of the side, I think we understand that to be the case, and Lewis will come in. I don't want him to be out of the side. Lewis is one of my favourite players, and yet I'm like, look, if Kalsha was fit and firing and fully available for this game, that's a choice I don't want to make. And that is a tremendous position to be in.
Now, if Lewis can't get up for Geelong...
You're thinking Scaife, aren't you?
I tell you what, I'm not thinking Scaife.
I knew it.
I'm just loving him. At the VFL this week, we've got McCabe. He'll be playing, apparently. That's the whisper.
That's right, yeah, back from injury.
Exactly what we needed in the loss last week. Thank you very much.
Scaife gave us something to enjoy on what was a difficult day out at City Oval. So we'll start with the VFL, since that is what we were talking about. Port Melbourne, 10-11-71, defeated Box Hill Hawks, 9-10-64. It's a fourth loss for the season for Box Hill. So just a 7-point margin, but I guess the lesson from this one is probably don't give the opposition a 4-goal head start. That would be my tip.
A lacklustre start. They're also quite inaccurate early on, just like the Hawks were over in WA. And it was interesting. I was listening to Jarman Impey interviewed at the conclusion of the game, and he said, we saw what happened with Box Hill and how they started like that, and we knew that we could not do that, and we made a pact to get through the first 20 minutes with full intensity, and then see what happened after that. And for a team to say that is fine, but then to actually see them do it, even though they were inaccurate in front of goal, that's far more impressive.
Absolutely. That means they're locked in.
Yeah, and that focus that they've got to make that decision and then go out and do it. Anyway, we were a bit unlucky, I thought. In the end, we came back a couple of times and they managed to score goals. And Ward and Hustwaite and Ramsden and Sarong, young fellas who are going to have a big part in the future of this footy club, were excellent out there on the day.
Yeah, Hustwaite in particular, and Ward, I guess, too, at that level, they're beginning to be very, very good consistently. Like, their accumulation of the footy is awesome. Hustwaite with 34 touches, Ward with 29. I think they're both magnificent. Scaife hitting the scoreboard. He had 2 goals. Lewis had 2 goals as well. Look, we got close. The thing that decided it.
Oh, don't do this. Don't do this. He might be in this week.
I won't name names. If you really want to, you can look up the video.
Phillips. He handballed to his old side and they kicked the goal. Now.
It's a dreadful way to decide a game, and it did decide it. The door was shut at that point, and you got a feel for him. That's not how you want it to go.
But we're only a point down after Scaife kicked an absolute ripper from the wrong pocket. I hardly ever see anyone kick a goal from there.
You're very right. That is a notoriously tough pocket to score from. And whenever it happens, it's noteworthy.
Who do they have this week? Oh, they got Geelong. Of course they do. And that's at Box Hill City Oval at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. And we'll be able to see McCabe run out for the first time.
Yeah, it seems like he will be selected, so that'll be a treat. So as I flagged, it wasn't a particularly good day for our VFL sides. So the VFLW Box Hill Hawks, they were playing in an elimination final against the defending premiers in Port Melbourne. Now, these two teams actually played to a draw the previous week at ETU Stadium. But on this occasion, it wasn't to be. The Borough got the job done, booking their place in the semi-finals with an 18-point win. Pretty disappointing. I think Box Hill did show some fight, certainly, and then right in the last quarter, the Borough just got on a bit of a roll and they broke the game open, and that was it. Didn't have an answer for that. I believe one of the stories coming out of that game is Tamara Luke has officially retired from competition, so she's hung up the boots now from all levels. I think I also saw on social media that Sarah Perkins, who I wasn't aware was playing for Essendon's VFL side, or VFLW side, sorry, she has also hung up the boots now. So those are two AFLW Hawks, forever enshrined in the legacy of our AFLW team. They've both called time, so we wish them well.
Are they both VFLW Premiership Hawks too?
They are.
That was a good day. I still remember that.
That's a fantastic day. Speaking of beating Geelong, good fun.
Now the injury list is looking fairly innocuous until you realise that James Sicily probably isn't having a test, but rather in for surgery, you would think.
Well, it's more rest than test, I would say.
Surely you would have to have surgery at the end of the year because you can't go on with a shoulder like that.
Yeah, this can't keep on happening, and the ease with which it happened. I mean, bloody Liam Ryan flying for that mark and just didn't even get anywhere near it, just jumped in the air and connected with the shoulder, and that seemed to be enough to do it. And you just think if it's that easy, it's probably going to happen again. Chad Wingard with his calf is a test, so he's in the frame to potentially return to some footy. And then besides that, it's just the season-ending injuries of James Blank and Sam Butler. So it's a little quiet on the injury front, a little too quiet. And it makes me nervous. Maybe that says something about my disposition as a person. I'm not sure how to take that.
Yeah, so let's get ahead to GMHBA. And we're thinking Mitch Lewis comes in for Deer, and if Sicily's out, Phillips is elevated.
Phillips or Sarong. Sarong is who we played last time, so there's every chance that could happen. We had a question from Charlie. Surely Mitch Lewis in this week would stretch their defence considerably, especially if they persist with SDK in the ruck. Meek should monster him. Chol, Lewis, and Gunston/Deer as the third tall against an undersized backline. It's ominous.
Against an undersized backline? What am I missing? They've got very tall backmen, don't they? I would have thought we'd be showing them up at ground level, to be honest. That would be how we'll be winning this game.
Well, according to David King, our only strength is our midfield, so I don't think Geelong will be too worried about our many and varied sources of goals, which they are, by the way. I don't know why no one's talking about that. But anyway.
Giath with the first goal, thank you very much.
Well, exactly right. But also, second half, oh yeah, we're going to play Blake Hardwick forward now. We're doing that. We'll pull that lever because we know we can. And he scores a goal. Great. Well, that works. Very nice. Tidy work, Hawthorn.
Beautiful kick too. I thought they put Dave forward too, which you didn't like because he had that contest with McGovern. But they definitely had him there to actually slot one.
Katter says, with Mitch Lewis back, will that unbalance the forward structure that's currently working well? I don't see why it has to.
Ooh, I don't see why it has to either, Nick.
Such a troll. I mean, it's like for like. Deer comes out, Lewis comes in. You would hope that wouldn't change too much. Granted, Deer has some attributes, and his game that he brings is different to Lewis.
Speed and tackling and better below his knees.
All right, okay. Move on.
No, I'm excited to see Lewis back. He'll be champing at the bit. Hopefully he's an angry young man, because I like when Mitch Lewis is angry. I think that's when he plays his best footy. When he's focused and he's aggro and you can see that testosterone just bubbling.
I'm of that belief as well. We heard from Kane, if we win this week, do we start taking the F word more seriously? and it gave me a bit of a chuckle. It amused me that Al had a question as well. If we beat Geelong this week, can you guys come to my place and help me remove every lid I own from the premises? So we got some competing attitudes there. Kane is a bit more reserved, like, can we start talking about it? And Al's like, let's go.
So I've actually agreed to accept a lift down to the ground. It's about a 1.5 hour trip down, which should be fine. But my Geelong supporting mate who's driving, of course, if the result is against him, I'm wondering how the trip will be back.
Do you want me to shoot you through the V-line timetable? Or?
Initially, I thought, because you organise it well out from here, so I'm like, I don't have huge expectations, so should be fine. But, of course, when he said he'd drive, he felt supremely confident they'd won the first 8.
That's right. So it's been very cold in Melbourne, but I imagine that'll be a very chilly car ride back.
Yeah, but it's going to be freezing at 4:30 through to about 7 while we're down there, mate. We're going to need those hot pockets, and I'll go through about 3 meat pies, trying to just keep the homeostatic level.
Wow. The only footy podcast talking about homeostasis, I'd say. We heard from Tom. Do the Cats have the psychological strength to cope with our form? Is that a little bit of a throwback to 2008?
So did you watch that game, them playing Essendon? Or?
Yeah, I did. And yeah, they looked all right. But I don't know whether we can trust Geelong this year. They seem a bit all over the shop, and they certainly seem more vulnerable than they ever have at Kardinia Park.
Yeah, no, they're not playing the ground well, to be honest.
Then there's all the discourse around the umpiring really being such a deciding factor in the game. I don't know how much to read into that either. So I'm not really sure how to get a read on Geelong.
Essendon really did drop their heads. Like, as soon as it got out to a certain margin, they weren't up for the contest. So from a psychological point of view, they were done. And then it just moved away from them. I don't think that's going to be a problem for us. It'll just be adapting to the ground and how cold, or if it's wet, it may be down there. But they certainly have a good home ground advantage.
Well, it made me wonder what the dimensions of Kardinia Park are compared to UTAS. I don't know if any listeners want to look that up and send that through if they feel compelled to. Certainly it's going to be as cold, like the conditions are going to be approximated, and I don't know, is it going to be that unfamiliar a ground to play on? Will it be that unfamiliar in terms of conditions and dimensions? I don't know. This is all stuff that I still have to look up. But I suppose what I'm getting at, and we'll get to our tips at the end of the podcast, I'm a little bit bullish. I don't head down fearing a loss per se. I think we're a chance.
Hawks by 40 every week, mate. Just
Well, it's been a safe bet lately. Let's get to some social media stuff before we go any further. If you enjoy what we do here at the Hawk Talk podcast, we have a little favour to ask. It'd be super helpful if you could spread the word about the show. Let some fellow Hawkers know we're out there and worth a listen. One way to do that, of course, is to leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you're listening to this. We'd really appreciate that. We also really enjoy chatting with our other diehard Hawkers. We're all riding a bit of a wave at the moment, I can tell. It's great to see. So come and join us over on our social channels. You can find us on X, Facebook, and Instagram. And finally, we'd like to take this opportunity to extend a massive thanks to our proud, passionate, and paid-up Patreon subscribers who have thrown their support behind the show. We had an influx, of subscribers get on board with us over the bye. Super keen for that bonus content. Our mid-season review just dropped. We'd like to give a shout-out to those that just joined. A very special thank you to Daniel, Kane, Jeremy, Nick, Jace, Michael, Liam, Shannon, Stu, and Bodie. We really appreciate your contribution. Make no mistake, it's you guys and indeed all of our subscribers who help us put time to the show each and every week. For anyone who's still weighing it up and you think you might want to show your favourite Hawthorn podcast a little bit of love, head to our Patreon page for all the details. There's hours upon hours of bonus content there for you. Patreon.com/HawkTalkPod.
Bodie just reminded me that Bodie Ryan and McKay will be playing their first match together. 2 best mates.
Yeah, that's a good story. I like that for them.
Now, who else are we bringing to the club? Well, let's see. Everyone's lining up. Harry Perryman has apparently been seen having coffee with Sam Mitchell, Jared Ruffhead, and Vice-Captain Dylan Moore in Sydney last week.
The 5-year offer to Perryman worth close to $800,000 per year. It is awfully high. I guess the The only thing that makes me less concerned about that is that we have the money to spend. And for all those that are saying, because we did have some questions about it, we had one there from Mittens, help me understand why we are keen on Perryman. I would have thought another mid-sized defender is the last thing we need. Well, all I would say to that is that Blake Hardwick was purely a defender up until about this year. I know he played forward in his junior days, but he's long been a defender at Hawthorn. And then with a slight tweak, a bit of a role change, you never know what can happen. You can reinvent Perryman and get something else out of him. So that's all I'll say about that. Don't be boxed into he's just this position and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not the role they have in mind for Perryman, just quietly. And that will be part of extricating him from GWS. But apart from that, Kel Toomey has basically said Josh Battle in, what is it? Is it 3 weeks since we told that Josh Battle's on his way and you can put out the red carpet? But Kel Toomey's come up with the goods here and...
Well, it's neck and neck at this point. I guess that's the conjecture at the moment.
Oh, come on. He just says that for all the Saints listeners.
I'm on the same page as you, all right? I reckon he's gone. I reckon he's coming to Hawthorn because this story's been bubbling away for too long. Okay, I reckon it's going to happen. The Hawks have put forward allegedly 6 years to the unrestricted free agent Josh Battle. Saints expected to put forward the same. Sam Edmund actually reported that the pursuit of Josh Battle has really ramped up, with Sam Mitchell having numerous phone calls with him. So he's handling business very personally as Sam Mitchell.
Did that raise your eyebrows?
Not at all. I would hope that was happening.
It's all fair in love and war now in AFL now, isn't it? Because in the past, if you rang an opponent's player, it would be frowned upon.
Oh, maybe, but how badly do you want to win? That's what I'd say. You don't owe another team anything. They're your opposition. They're your rival. You're doing what you can to attract talent, and, we're not even in the 8. We've got to do what we can. You use every trick in the book, inside the rules, of course, to get where you need to go. We had a question from Appleby. Who needs a really strong final 8 weeks to keep their spot on the list? Let's just go one each here.
Genuinely, I've seen improvement from most players across the list. The only ones we've already mentioned on our mid-season. And DGB would be top of the list for me in who needs to find something, because I think if Sicily does have to have surgery, he needs to be playing in the last at least 5 weeks of this season.
I'd say DGB, and I'll give you another one, Cooper Stevens. They're the two that are on the chopping block, I'd say. Acidity, what are our top 3 most likely games to lose for the rest of the season? Come on, Acidity, you're taking the wind out of our sails with this one. I've personally penciled in Blues, Pies, and GWS. No, it's probably fair enough.
Oh, you didn't have Geelong?
Geelong is a line ball. Blues, we certainly don't start favourites. Pies, I can see us dropping. GWS, I can see us dropping. We're on this amazing run, but it has to grind to a halt at some point. We are going to lose some games.
I'm far more confident against the Pies than I am against the Cats on the weekend.
Wow, okay. Fair enough. JK06, is this what equalisation looks like? If it is, then there's not much difference between 3rd and 13th. There are always a couple of standouts, and that comes down to personnel. Sydney and Carlton bat deep with quality and consistency. We're a couple of players away from being that team. Well, pretty hard to dispute that. I'd say JK06 is on the money there.
Yeah, pound for pound, I think Carlton have more talent, but they're not as impressive as Sydney. What do you think?
Well, I think they'll be the grand finalists. I think I called this on our mid-season review, or perhaps even earlier, but Sydney and Carlton will be the grand finalists, I'd say.
I doubt Carlton make it.
Okay, so who are your 2 teams making it? Sydney being one of them, I'm guessing.
I think Sydney have to make it, but I don't see Carlton getting through the prelim. I really don't.
Watch this space. We can circle back round to this. Mate, if you're right, I'll happily splice it into the episode we're recording at the time. No problem there. Ada NWO Wolfpack. Now, mate, this is a bit of a victory lap, I guess. Ada NWO Wolfpack for life. Damien Barrett said that getting rid of O'Meara and Mitchell was the worst decision ever. Right now, it's looking like the best decision, and how well our midfield is playing, dominating centre clearances, and the one who has benefited the most since they have left is Warple. And then followed up by Andrew. Have you done your Hawthorn duty and been blocked by Damo on X?
To be honest, Damo can't afford to block us because we've been cited on Channel 9. So it just wouldn't work well for him.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of coverage lately. It's quite nice. Even the club's shouting us out, giving us props for our elite content, which is nice.
That was very nice and very elite, Nick. Very elite.
Cheers, mate.
They seem to have way too much fun with that, what do you call it, phone-a-thon.
I think the bye brought out the best in them, to be honest. And I mean the social media team as well. I think there was some great content. You notice how we've steered right away from mentioning anything about Damien Barrett, even though he was right at the core of these last questions.
Oh, look, he's a professional troll. He's going to be there for a long time. He never says anything sort of fascinating and never anything. The only thing I really like about it is that Larky can take him off so well.
It is a great impression. I guess I just put these questions in because I noticed something about my own attitude this week. And it was off the back of seeing a particular tweet where a fellow Hawthorn fan highlighted that Damien Barrett had Hawthorn as his wooden spooners for 2024. And my reaction was nothing. I didn't care. I did not care. Mate, I've graduated to not caring what Damien Barrett has to say. And it feels good.
Well, it's just so ineffectual much of the time. And I think that would really hurt Damien.
Correct.
So
that's part of why it feels good, mate. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, exactly. Just another also had an opinion guy. So we're both going to be there at Geelong. They're famously a grey-headed crowd, and they go very quiet if they're not winning. If there's a bit of hush when Hawthorn hit the front in the third quarter down at Geelong, and we're starting to get Guinea doing the shush to the crowd, I'm going to be giving it to that grey-haired mob that pretend to like football down there. They only like winning. They don't like footy. You saw how disgusting they were when they started losing. It's just brilliant. Remember they walked out of that 300th because they weren't winning? Oh, just wonderful.
Absolutely. I mean, I think on Saturday there's every chance it becomes the GMHBA library. Bit of shush, thanks. Nice and quiet. Mate, you'll hear M10. People hear M10 on the coverage. The boys from M10 are travelling down to Cardinia. It's going to be great.
You're going to have to find the ground mic and just belt it into it.
I reckon Chol, the Spandau Ballet Chol, will get a great rendition. Get that on the coverage.
It's going to be really good fun because I know a lot of Hawkers are heading down, and we've had some fantastic battles with them in the past, and I think there is that mutual respect between the clubs too, so good fun. So
to sign off, I need your tip, mate. How are you feeling? You see him up and about.
I feel we win.
I feel we could win. Look, it's a very 50-50 sort of a game. It could be game of the round, to be honest. It's I guess Friday night's a pretty good one as well. Collingwood, Essendon. But Geelong, Hawthorn in Geelong, this could easily go either way. I think we're a really, really good chance.
It's the old battle. Old versus new.
Who's older, the fans in the stands or the players on the ground for them? I think we'll get out on that. This has been another edition of the Hawk Talk podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week to recap all the action, win, lose or draw. We'll see you then. We are a happy team at Hawthorn.